Yes, the clock on that countdown is wrong again. Hello, I'm Mayor Watt. That's the website that I run. What is ohmTown? It's a news aggregator that throws, just a ton of article headlines and a little snippet of the news into 6 categories: create, news, education, entertainment, social, and technology. And it does it nonstop. It started out as a personal project. I showed it to a few people. They thought it was neat. I opened it to the public here in 2022, January 1st, as a matter of fact. And I've been streaming every day since then from 6 to 7 Eastern Standard Time. I will continue to do this for the foreseeable future and try to expand it, because under these 6 main categories are actually 50 shows that I want to launch this year. And I'd like to do some more starting next week. We'll see if I can make that happen. And if you are interested in hosting or co-hosting any of these 50 shows, get in touch with me. Be happy to set it all up so that we can stream together. You will be up there. I will be right here, or the other way around, depending on, your preference, I suppose. But get in touch. That said, I've got about 20 articles again, covering the news between last show and this show. And it's always a broad spectrum of topics. So I can't really pin it down to a particular topic. I had been intending to do that, but some days the news just isn't populated with enough articles that are really interesting, something that crosses just a particular subject. I like more broad topics, or something that is interesting to talk about. So with that in mind, let's get into this show. The first article is over in Smack Talk. That is a channel that talks about Mac and Apple products, I should just say, instead of Mac. But this here, it says LG is competing to develop future iPad Pro displays, and LG Display is reportedly investing in development of 2 different OLED displays, aiming to become Apple's supplier for both 11-inch and 12.9-inch iPad Pro models. Samsung works to win Apple orders through a new 2-stack OLED panel. LG Display is now reportedly working on 2 different models, also using 2-stack tandem structures. The models are presumably the same technology, but being made for 2 different sizes. And according to the Elec, LG is the exclusive developer of the larger 2.9 or 12.9 display, but faces competition from Samsung on the 11-inch model. It's kind of interesting. If they drop that technology down to the 11-inch, I suppose LG would just dominate Apple products. But that's what I like to see, competition, because competition means that the customer is going to win out, as better features, better functions, longer life, better quality, everything that makes customers happy will be forced. So this article is over on appleinsider.com, written by William Gallagher. Go over, click that link. It'll take you over to ohmTown, and you can sign up, become a citizen. You don't have to be a citizen to read the little snippet, nor to click the link. It'll take you over to Apple Insider. In reality, you can consume all you want from ohmTown, and the real benefit to ohmTown is there are some gamification aspects to it, where you earn AMP, which is the currency on ohmTown, and eventually I intend to launch products that can be acquired by using AMP. There's other things. There's a Patreon that is also available, where you can sign up as a patron and it will remove the ads from ohmTown for your account. That is in progress right now. And we're We're over on YouTube. We're on Twitter. We're a podcast. And we're here on Twitch. And that's really where I like to be, here on Twitch. Streaming to a live audience and interacting with you in real time. So feel free to throw something in chat. And we can have a conversation about the topics. So what do you think? LG, Samsung? I've had both of these monitors, both of these tech elements inside my tablets. All of my monitors right now are actually Asus. But my iPad Pro, I suppose it's an LG. What do you think? Who wins out? You know, and Asus might be buying their displays by purchasing them from LG. I'd have to look into that. Maybe I'll do that, and I'll bring it up next show, which is again tomorrow at 6 o'clock. But the next article is over in the Word in Tech. Luminary CEO says the subscription podcast model, quote unquote, is working. I'm just going to click this link here. It says, "Hi again, everyone. With today's issue, I've officially completed my first week as guest writer for Hot Pod. Amazon launches its Clubhouse competitor. Amazon finally announced its entrance to the live audio space this morning with the launch of a new app called AMP, which I thought was very interesting. Let's click this link. So what is this subscription podcast model? In reality, subscription podcasts have kind of been around for a while in conjunction with any pod hosting service, and you get kind of aligned with a service like Patreon, and it links together, and you get a proprietary RSS feed that is attached to your Patreon account, and usually it's an ad-free RSS feed. What they're talking about is Hot Pod. And actually this is Hot Pod, which has a guest writer in it for a week. And then there's Luminary, which is a subscription podcast service. They were apparently talked about in Hot Pod Insider. And it says newly appointed Luminary CEO Rishi Malhotra told the author, and let me scroll back up here and restate that author's name, Jacob Kastrenakis, or Kastrenakis. I may be pronouncing it incorrectly, so Jacob, correct me. If you click that link, it'll take you over to ohmTown, which will forward you over to The Verge by clicking on the link to visit the source. Well, anyway, a new CEO and a new partnership with Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle's going everywhere. It was a first burst of good news, really any news for the company in some time, and it was a suggestion that maybe Luminary subscription only podcast model still has legs. To me, I think that anything that creates an exclusivity kind of air around it, and not necessarily for the better. You have to have hype for a subscription only model to even benefit from that exclusivity, because you want somebody's message out there everywhere. You add that value of removing advertisement from it, and people will subscribe if they find value in it. Otherwise, the value is they're going to listen to your podcast and consume the ads or fast forward through them. That's just the way things are. That's how consumers are. You know, everybody does that. So with this only subscription, you are charging a premium rate for someone to hopefully find immediate value in it and stay subscribed. I guess it's a risk and reward for the consumer. But it says the model is working from a revenue basis. and the service's subscriber numbers continue to grow, though he declined to share if the service is profitable. If it's a startup, it's typically not. They're burning money and have a runway. And look, I mean, everybody that's in the business at the C-suite on down is getting a salary at some point. It's kind of tough to not do that. So the company may not be generating revenue, but it's actually paying people. So it has cash. I'm sure it's generating revenue. It's just not covering all of its costs. Hence the various investors. So good luck. You can go and check out Luminary. And, but you know, it's just going to have so much competition that I think that it's going to be hard to really provoke people to pay that premium rate for what amounts to ad free. And I can do that in a heartbeat. That's me though. You know, I'm not Dave Chappelle. I've also not been in this industry as a streamer for decades. So give me time. Give me time. Maybe I'll get an audience. I know that there's some that are in my chat. You can say hi if you want. That would be great. But let's keep on moving through the news. So the next article is in the Mobile channel. And this is ice for sore muscles. Think again. Icing muscles after strenuous exercise is not just ineffective, it could be counterproductive. A new study in mice suggests. That just provokes little mice running for miles only to be told, hey, we're going to ice those muscles. Let's click this link and see what these poor mice have to go through. Well, I didn't need to see this person's neck, but whatever. So this article over at New York Times is written by Gretchen Reynolds. And says, in recent years, exercise scientists have started throwing cold water on the supposed benefits of icing. In a 2011 study, for example, people who iced a torn calf muscle felt just as much leg pain later as those who left their sore leg alone, and they were unable to return to work or other activities any sooner. Similarly, a 2012 scientific review concluded that athletes who iced sore muscles after strenuous exercise, or for the masochistically minded, immersed themselves in ice baths, which was all the rage. Sorry, I'm not quoting that last little comment where I said that I don't know what year it is. God, I'm going apoplectic here. Everybody was talking about ice baths. If you were hardcore into sports, you do an ice bath after working out or running a marathon or whatever. And then it just faded away. Maybe it's because I became more sedentary and stopped working out twice a day and running and whatever else. Well, anyway, now they're talking about 2012. It was before 2012 when I was talking about it, and when I was hearing about it. Anyway, let me get back to the article statement. Regained muscular strength and power more slowly than the unchilled teammates. So if you chilled, you recovered slower. I can't imagine why. So there's two things that are really detrimental to the human condition, and that's extreme heat and extreme cold. Cooling things down, heating things up. No, I think there has to be a middle ground, and it's probably just, I don't know. Let's see what it says. And a sobering 2015 study of weight training found that men who regularly applied ice packs after workouts developed less muscular strength, size, and endurance than those who recovered without ice. So I guess just leaving yourself alone and letting you naturally heal, which, you know, some might say we've been doing this for millennia. Why mess with it? Science and anecdote tend to lead people down certain paths. And there have been times where people have been told do this, and then only to find out you shouldn't do that because science dug again into it. And this is a perfect example of it. A decade later, being told, no, don't use ice. What are you? And there's another picture of somebody's legs in an ice bath. It says, rodents' muscles, like ours, are made up of fibers that stretch and contract with any movement. Stretch and contract. Okay. Yeah. Overload those fibers during unfamiliar or exceptionally strenuous activities and you damage them. After healing, the affected muscles and their fibers should grow stronger and better able to withstand those same forces the next time you work out. Not necessarily. But it was the healing process itself that interested the researchers now, and whether icing could change it. So they gathered muscle samples from animals immediately after their simulated exertions. Oh, poor things. And then strapped tiny ice packs onto the legs of about half of the mice while leaving the rest unchilled. What in the world am I looking at? I guess. Okay. So I don't know. I'm going to go down, I guess, the mouse hole if I keep thinking about this. So then they microscopically scrutinized all of the tissues with a particular focus on what might be going on with inflammatory cells. As most of us know, inflammation is the body's first response to any infection or injury, with pro-inflammatory immune cells rushing to the afflicted area. So I guess they looked at it and they found out that the muscles, the fibers themselves just aren't recovering as if you were left alone. So there you have it, folks. Science is now saying, don't ice those muscles. Let's keep on going. Whoa. So the next article is in the Mobile Channel, how to start liking running. I was once asked why I don't run, and I said it's because my legs hurt. And I was asked how I could be asked to run. Like, what would motivate you to run there, Mayor Watt? And I said, chase me with a pack of dogs. Yeah. Unfortunately, my legs really do hurt. So here it says it's good for your mental and physical health and doesn't require any equipment. So why does it seem so hard to get started? And it does kind of, for many people, it requires shoes and sometimes expensive shoes. Because you are pounding the ground with your mass as you are running. So let's click this link and see if we can be saved. This is a New York Times article. It's written by Farah Miller. And it says here, every time I have to push myself to run that horrible first minute, I get breathless. Muscles I didn't know I had now ache like I never thought possible. I feel self-conscious when a neighbor spots me bouncing down the street, and yet I stick with it. I can now run 20 minutes in a row, and they are not all horrible. So let cynicism go. Not grow. Sorry, that's a different thing. Let cynicism go. Get a voice in your head. Yeah, it tells you to run, run, run. I had to remind somebody today who was demotivated to go run. I said, go run. Get it done. You'll enjoy the benefit of it afterward. Rewear your dirty clothes? What? Experts will advise sleeping in your running gear, compression tights and all, so that there's nothing between you and starting your morning run? What? Oh my goodness. All right. What else? Don't run fast. Well, you can run fast, I think, but don't start out fast. You got to ease into it. You got to condition your lungs and your heart so that you can run longer, faster. What else? Find your fellow slowpokes. Yeah, if you want to run with a bunch of people, sure. And I think that's it. But if you want the subtle context of Farah Miller's article over at the New York Times, follow that link in chat or go over to ohmTown and click the link. And the article is titled, you can always go over to New York Times or just do a Google search for how I tricked myself into liking running. I don't know. Pay me. I'll like running. That's not true. I like running anyway. Anyway, like the previous mention of this, in the continuity report, there's an article for Amazon unveils AMP, an app to DJ radio shows, and it's in beta. And this has kind of happened before, but they've actually got a catalog that's linked to it. Amazon has released the limited access beta version of AMP, a new free app that provides users with a way to DJ their own live radio shows. Creators can work from a catalog of tens of millions of licensed songs from UMG, Sony Music Group, Warner Music Group, and a long list of independent sources, I suppose. My aggregator literally chops off the rest of an article. That is by intent. I don't want the whole article on my site. I just want a snippet, and I want to motivate you to visit the source. Then you can read all about it. This is an article over at Variety. It's written by Jem Aswad. Jem, Jem. Has a neat kind of 70s style image. I've been told that helps with engagement, but I'm more interested in doing the live show, and the chat should spawn from that. So I don't grab their artwork. And I don't have artwork on ohmTown. You as citizens of ohmTown can post your own there if you want, though. And it says, radio has always, this is a quote, the vice president of AMP saying, radio has always been about music and culture. Yep. But imagine if you were inventing the medium for the first time today, you'd combine what people love about radio, spontaneous talk, new music discovery, diverse personalities, and broad programming, with all of the, with all that's made possible by today's technology. You'd make it so anybody with a phone, a voice, and a love for music could make their own show. And that's exactly what we're doing. Well, that's great. But I would like to do that here on Twitch. But again, the problem here is the VOD framework. Because of the synchro license, you have to ask every producer, every copyright holder, the maker of the music and the lyrics, the song. You have to ask them for permission, and not just one organizing body. You have to ask the artist for permission for it to be in a VOD because of the synchro licensing. That is what I've been told by several people now. If you know different, let me know. But there have been previous DJ services where you could stream your own show, but it was very expensive ultimately. But here it says AMP is creating built-in discovery and notifications so listeners can find and follow creators and upcoming shows. Hosts can take callers and control over who speaks and when, and they can pre-plan and schedule their own shows and listen to songs in real time with their audiences. So historically, you were not allowed to take calls and stream something on demand. There are also other radio limits in that you couldn't stream more than a certain number of songs by the same artist or album within a given time frame. And there are more. There's a lot of tracking and stuff like that. Maybe AMP is resolving it. I'm going to go and take a look at AMP because I have always wanted to have my own radio show. It's kind of like this, but I wish, and I'm going to find out if I can stream AMP through Twitch, because if the license exists, it should cover it. But I think the VOD problem will persist. And I don't want to just stream into the wind, really, so to speak. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll take a look and then I'll report back. And if you have experience in it, then let me know. So the next article is in the mobile channel. How will termination of research partnerships with Russia affect global scientific research? Well, I've already witnessed some research project stop orders get put into place. It says financial, political, commercial, and cultural entities quickly cut ties with Russia after its invasion of Ukraine. Some universities also are ending research projects and scientific cooperation with institutions in Russia. Lisa Janik Hinchliffe, might be Hincliffe, the coordinator of information literacy services and instruction and a professor in the university library at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, co-wrote an essay on scientific decoupling that was published on the Society for Scholarly Publishing blog, The Scholarly Kitchen. And she talked with News Bureau Arts and Humanities editor Jody Heckel about it. Let's click this link and take a look. It's an article over at phys.org, and the article was written by Jody Heckel, University of Illinois. And it says, historically, universities in the U.S. and Europe have followed a policy of openness regarding research and scientific collaboration with other nations, even during times of conflict. And how have scientific partnerships and shared projects been used for diplomacy? Examples of scientific diplomacy are numerous, including Cold War era relationships with the USSR. I mean, we are actually sending rockets from Russia out to the ISS, and then out of the blue, it gets leveraged as a threat where they're no longer going to allow us to use the rockets to go out to the ISS, and they say, we'll drop the ISS right there in your lap. So I think diplomacy at that point kind of literally flies out the window. And we kind of have to rein it back in. More level heads need to be in control of this, because science there are people that are out there. It's a threat that inflames everything. I mean, it just causes trouble and strife. And educators don't really care for this, tit for tat kind of garbage. We want to push mankind forward and not regress into our more animal, tribal, destructive ways, them versus us. We want to stand on the shoulders of giants and see farther than we've ever seen before. And here we are being threatened. One of the questions here was, are you surprised to see the quick move to sever research ties with Russia by some institutions? I've never seen anything like this happen. There are real concerns about sharing information with adversaries, is what is said in this article. But the sudden and swift pivot away from the scientific diplomacy was definitely notable. Yeah, I agree. I've never seen anything move this fast in terms of societal response, short of something that would be considered hyper local, right? So you have protests and things like that, but this is a global response to an invasion of a country. And really, to me, I think that it needs to come down to, if a country asks for support, then it needs to be posted publicly, kind of like we're going to be building a road through here. And we post signs saying that there's going to be a road being put through here, and everybody agrees, and there's time for discussion, and then the road goes through. In this particular case, if Ukraine says to the U.S., hey, we want your help, and we are asking you publicly for your help, we should be able to go in there. But historically, you just never see that until there's something really global in nature, and I'd really like to avoid that. So the next article is in the Mobile channel, and it's the search for meaning in a mysterious brain signal at death. So I know that this is a really quick swing to something else, but this has been an interesting topic Um, I've only read a little bit about it, but um, I don't know if it's really tied to a concept or an area of practice in education and in society called thanatology, um, which is about aging and dying. But this article says in 2016, an 87-year-old man went to the emergency room at Vancouver General Hospital after falling down. A CT scan showed that his brain was bleeding and he needed surgery. After the operation, the man was stable for 2 days, but then he started to decline and have seizures. While the electrodes were on his head, the man had a heart attack and died, and the study published at the end of February documented what was found during the recording in the 30 seconds before and 30 seconds after the man's heart stopped. So let's click this link and take us over to vice.com. The article's by Shayla Love. And it has a little caption, research on a surge of gamma wave activity at death had been cited as proof your life flashes before your eyes before you die. In truth, no one knows exactly what it means. So let's see here. A study published at the end of February documented what was found during the recording. In the 30 seconds before and 30 seconds after the man's heart stopped, there was a surge in brain activity, and not just any activity, but gamma waves. Brain oscillations or waves are patterns of coordinated brain activity. Gamma waves are associated with conscious states, including learning and memory, and have also been observed in meditative states. Historically, there's been research into this, like what happens when a person dies. And at one point, somebody was weighing people, literally waiting for them to die. It was weird. And I don't know. Basically, the idea, one person had been taking pictures of somebody as they died to see if their soul left their body. Another person was weighing a person that was dying to see if they got lighter as the soul left the body, but it was in search of a soul. This is a little bit more fundamental. We're measuring the brain activity, and if a person dies while they're on an EKG or EEG, you can track this. And really, most people that are in an ED, emergency department, end up with sensors measuring heart rate, not necessarily brain. But in this case, from the EEG, they observed somebody's precise time of death. Pretty fascinating, right? What do you think? What is that surge? It's going to be very hard to, in the grand scheme of things, it's very difficult to capture this data because we don't know when somebody's demise is going to be, imminent. So why would you'd have to have people running around with an EEG and just sticking it on them and trying to say to them, okay, we're doing this just in case you die, which really can freak people out. I've been in an ED where people thought that something tragic was going to happen, only to find out that it was so far from being tragic that almost laughable, and you have to wonder, wow, was it a slow day and motivated? But overcompensation in an emergency department is better than people being too casual and just saying, go have a lollipop. So maybe more of this research, and I'm sure more of this research will be conducted. There's even movies about this. I think it might be called Dreamscape. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on one second. So I think it's back in the 80s, and you could play back Let's see, what was it called? Oh my goodness. Everything that's coming up is about a more modern movie where somebody died. Anyway, let me see. Oh, Brainstorm. That's what it's called. It's a 1983 film called Brainstorm. And basically, they recorded somebody as they died, and then they could play it back. And so you could experience that experience of the other person, which is just a wild thought. But go over to Vice.com and read this article about the search for meaning in a mysterious brain signal at death. You'll find it fascinating. I certainly do. The next article is in the Daily News Show. That's this show. And it says Biden to announce ban on Russian oil imports. We're already, so I'm in the United States. If you're listening to this in Twitch, and if you're listening to the podcast or on YouTube, I'm in the United States, and our gas prices are slowly creeping up, even though there will be no hit from this. It's not going to impact us. We hardly get any oil from Russia. We get it from myriad other locations, most of which from Canada, yet we're seeing a price jump, and some gas companies purchased a ton of, and ton is not, an accurate term. Just they purchased a lot in the downslope of Russian oil pricing, and now there's a ban on it. So where is this price coming from? Because it's a regional conflict, although it has global implications, but we're not going to feel it here in the States. So all of this, I think, is just pricing for profit. It's not going to impact supply and demand unless it's artificially manipulated. And we have experience with that. We've seen power companies in California shut down power so that the prices surge up. Enron is a thing. And it's always because abuse happens in the dark. People don't know what's going on. They don't know the real machinations. Everything that's going on around gas is an arcane art. If you talk to people that are in the industry, they too will sit there and say, no, there isn't going to be anything. People that are monitoring the sector are saying nobody's been impacted by any supply yet. Supply concerns? No. Are there any supply concerns? No. Yet here we are, prices increasing. Cost of living is increasing. Why is cost of living increasing? We're at the end of the pandemic. Everything should be recovering just fine. Prices didn't go up until suddenly 2022. Why is this? Love to talk to some economists and correct me. How am I wrong about this? So this article is over in ABC News. It's written by Molly Nagel, Ben Gittleson, and Sarah Kolinovsky, pardon me. I won't play the video. I want you to go over to the ABC News article, and it says, he said Americans would deal, quote, another powerful blow to Putin's war machine, end quote. Feel free to go over, and it says the move is expected to trigger sharply higher gasoline and other energy prices in the U.S. and worldwide. I just think that it's absurd. This is front loading the raising of prices for something that shouldn't matter. We can get more oil from another place, and even marginally without Russian oil, it's not going to impact us. So, yeah, I just think that it's absurd. But I'm sure somebody's going to say, well, it's not up to you to decide it. Yeah, I know. I'm too empathetic as a human being, sympathetic to the human condition, compassionate when I need to be. So the next article is over in Of the Grape. It's Order of the Grape. How did the angel shot become an industry-approved signal for help? In 2016, the county of Lincolnshire, England, introduced a new safety protocol meant to protect women from sexual violence during nights out. Why we have to do this is another one of those things where I'm like, why are humans like this? The concept was simple. If a guest at a bar, restaurant, or nightclub felt unsafe, they could ask a bartender or server for Angela, which would signal to the staff that the guest needed assistance. It was publicized with posters in women's bathrooms, letting guests know that they could use this protocol in the event of a sketchy situation. Somewhere along the way, the system came to the United States, where it was readapted as the Angel Shot. Let's click this link and take a look at it. This is an article over at vinepair.com, which does these really great articles. This isn't a discussion of the liquor side of things. This is the sociological aspect of drinking, and I've had to step in previously where somebody is being harassed or intimidated or whatever. This is kind of like a silent way of obtaining some assistance. This is an article by Maddie Schweitzer LeMay. I hope I'm pronouncing their last name properly. And it says, "It's almost mythical," said Katie Erskine, a career bartender and server who has worked in and around Chicago. "No one has ever said it to me, but I saw it happen once." Erskine was sitting at a bar after a shift at Evanston, Illinois, Bangers and Lace, when it happened. A woman who he says appeared to be on a first date was near him at the bar. Her date was visibly drunk and was insisting that they have another shot. She ordered an Angel Shot. The date thought she was talking about Angel's Envy, which is liquor, and asked for one as well. I think the bartender poured her a shot of iced tea, and the guy had the bourbon. She didn't seem like she felt unsafe so much as annoyed. But I got the bartender's attention, and he kept an eye on her until the date left. Bravo. But of course, depending on the person, maybe I would have red lit that person's liquor order. But maybe it would have triggered him. Who knows? Obviously, they're in communication, possibly afterward as well. Maybe it was a blind date. Who knows? Anyway, there's more to this about the Angel Shot and Ask for Angela. And there is no real policy on this. People adopt it in their particular restaurant or bar. But I've heard of this previously. I've never witnessed it, but I've heard people talk about it before. This next article is in the Order of the Grape. And could Chobani yogurt be the key to America's next great gins? Every day, tankers arrive at the Chobani plant in South Edmiston, New York, from nearby dairies, each truck holding some 8,000 gallons of milk. The milk is pumped into 200,000 gallon tanks and then turned into Greek yogurt. That's not a direct quote from the article. You'll have to click the link to go over there. So let's click that link. This is another VinePair article. Aaron Goldfarb wrote this article. Like other articles, I don't read the whole thing. I skim through it and I talk briefly about it. I haven't read this article prior to our show. So you're experiencing it like I do. And it talks about Greek yogurt. But then it says, solving a problem. It's completely novel to me what they're doing, says Andrew Thomas, co-owner and distiller at Brooklyn's Half-Tone Spirits. He's talking about Edward Zaidman and Joel Van Groll, founders of Cayuga Ingredients in King Ferry, New York, a Ukrainian immigrant who moved to America as a teen in 1990. So they converted the Grand Meadow cheese plant in Stratford, Wisconsin, America's leading cheese producing state, was creating 18 billion pounds of whey per year at the time, into an ethanol factory. And soon they were taking whey from local cheesemakers and distilling it into 5,000 gallons of ethanol per day, mainly for use as fuel. Wow. Wow. So, okay. Well, fascinating. Whey can get distilled into ethanol. All right. Eventually, they were working with the University of Wisconsin on research and began looking to launch their own industrial project. Seems like it's already industrial. Zaidman, meanwhile, had grown tired of traveling back and forth to Wisconsin from his home in Brooklyn. Let's see. They launched a new company, New Age Renewable Energy, and by 2016, we're working on a $12.5 million project set to open in Johnston, New York. These people are everywhere. It's amazing. So let's see here. Obviously, whey neutral spirits don't really exist. Most distilleries make certain designated spirits. Whiskey must be made from grain, bourbon from corn. Even most vodkas say made from grain on the label. So it seems like a bit of fool's errands, except Zaidman was also aware that many of New York State's emerging craft distilleries had farm licenses, meaning that at least 75% of the spirits needed to be made from ingredients produced in the state. Interesting. So I want you to go over to this vinepair.com site. And you can follow the link, or you can go over to ohmTown and click the link. Could Chobani yogurt be the key to America's next great gins? Interesting. Alcohol produced from whey. The next article is going to involve the announcements from Apple today. There was a 1 p.m. or on the East Coast, 10 a.m. presentation on the West Coast with some new hardware. And they did drop a new iPad Air. This article was from before that drop. And it says that they leaked that somebody leaked that the forthcoming iPad Air 5 would retain its $599 price, but will have 8 gigs. And it came close. Came very close. William Gallagher is the author of this. It's for appleinsider.com. Feel free to go over to the site. I'm not sure if they updated it yet, but this definitely, they did launch a new iPad Air. And let me see something real quick. I want to make sure. So the iPad Air is $599 to start. And it fits right in between the iPad and the iPad Pro in its pricing and its capabilities, but it is an M1. So it's going to be speedy, snappy, a pretty rock solid device. So if you are interested in getting a new iPad, that's definitely the way to go. But let me keep on trucking through these because I'm running really late. The next article is in the Of the Grape. Order of the Grape, to be precise. We asked 12 bartenders, which cocktail do you wish people would order more? And it says, we're all guilty of finding a new drink and over ordering it until it becomes a tried and true go-to. Yep, I've got a bunch of those. This is a VinePair article. Again, this is by Lane Niset. And interesting. So if you scroll down, this is the order. This is some of the drinks that people should order more. Dry martini. I've never had a stinging Vesper. Vespa is wasp in Italian, I believe, like the insect wasp. So I suppose Vesper is also a stinging wasp. Sidecar. I don't know, Jungle Bird. Wow, these are all interesting names, but I haven't had all of these things. I mean, everybody's had a daiquiri. Remixed spritzes. Okay. Well, there's more over there. So go over to vinepair.com, and the actual link is in chat now. The next article is Apple sold 7 out of 10 best-selling smartphones worldwide in 2021. And it says new figures say that Apple dominated the chart of all smartphones sold globally in 2021, with versions of the iPhone taking the top 5 spots and more. Apple's iPhone was previously reported to have dominated the US market in 2021. Now, though, the new estimates say the company has also earned the best ever results in the worldwide top 10. And this is really something because a lot of people will sit there and go, well, what about Android? What about this? What about that? This article, by the way, is written for appleinsider.com by William Gallagher. Has a picture of the iPhone. But I just want to draw more attention to the fact that this is a completely singular company producing one device. Obviously, it's different iterations of it, right? Like iPhone 12, 13, upcoming 14, various strata within that version, right? But it's one company selling this device in massive amounts with record profits, and that's why their stock is so high priced. And it's amazing. The moment that they release a new phone, there's an entire ecosystem that adjusts. New cases, more cables, different things come out to support this new device that has been in development, and other developers are getting bits of information about what they can produce. So they get their engineering specs from Apple and they can build the cases and whatnot. It is a spectacular machine, Apple. And I'm talking about the business mechanics, not the devices. The devices are great as well, but the business processes are spectacular. But I'm going to continue on. Let's keep going so that we can get done tonight. The next article is Google confirms a $5.4 billion acquisition of Mondiant. It might be Mandiant. It depends on who you talk to, but I say Mondiant. The cybersecurity firm, it says Google has announced that it is to buy Mondiant, the security firm known for discovering the SolarWinds hack, with the firm confirming or becoming part of Google Cloud. This is probably going to end up being really kind of, well, it really depends on what they have in their infrastructure. I don't know what's on the back end of Mondiant's research, what their capability is, what their monitoring is. I know that they do some things. They put out a white paper periodically, and it's all about cybersecurity. So if they are something like Splunk on the back end, maybe Google Cloud will have a big data network monitoring, a data analysis process on the back end, but I don't know. I haven't read this article, and I've never done a deep dive into Mondiant. So this article is for appleinsider.com by William Gallagher as well. And it says organizations around the world are facing unprecedented cybersecurity challenges as the sophistication and severity of attacks that were previously used to target major governments are now being used to target companies in every industry, said Thomas Kurian, CEO of Google Cloud, in a statement. Yes, I agree. We also are underpowered in terms of skilled workforce. So if you are interested in starting out in the 80,000s a year and moving quickly, as long as you've got skills and both technical and social, you have the ability to write a cogent statement on a piece of paper, not piece of paper. It's going to be an email or a Word doc and convert it into a PDF or some other platform into a PDF. If you can write a report and you have the technical chops, believe me, you can get a job in cybersecurity. But you have to network and you have to be trusted. So, and for many things, you have to get secret clearance. So most of this hacking, cybersecurity stuff, penetration testing is government based. And you, just a word of warning, if you go and hack on your own and you don't have an agency protecting you and you haven't permission from the company to hack their systems, you are guilty of federal crimes and state, local crimes. You just, the moment you start hacking, trying to circumvent security, it's illegal. So we'll see what comes out of this. I'm not quite sure what all is going to be integrated into Google Cloud. But go over and check out that article. That would be great. The next article is the pandemic has worsened the reading crisis in schools. This is in the Mobile channel. The fallout from the pandemic is just being felt, and we're in new territory, say educators. Let's click this link. I know that I'm rushing, but it's important to get all of this news out there. The fallout from the pandemic is just being felt. We're in new territory, says educators. This is an article in the New York Times. It's written by Dana Goldstein. Let's see here. In Virginia, one study found that early reading skills were at a 20-year low this fall, which the researchers described as alarming. This really is dependent on parents motivating their children to read outside of the school environment. It is a must. You have to read to your kid. You have to get your kid to read books. Find books that are relevant to your kid. Buy an e-reader from Amazon and subscribe them to the kids' Kindle. Lots of free books, and books are available on demand. You don't have to lug them around. Basically, the world is at their fingertips, but you have to enable it. And the kids' ebook reader on Amazon is inexpensive. You got to make it happen. Some people will say, well, your kid is looking at a screen. Well, you know, at this day and age, your kid is going to be looking at a screen all over the place. You might as well make it so that they are actually reading something and not just looking at a screen, like a TV screen, or watching the same YouTube stuff on an iPad or something. While that's great for a little bit, they need to read, and they learn about language, they learn about social, they learn about technology, they learn about all kinds of stuff, but they have to read. So I think that this is a sociological concern. This is something that parents needed to do throughout the pandemic. And this isn't something that is just specific to schools. Children in every demographic group have been affected, but Black and Hispanic children, as well as those from low-income families, with those with disabilities and those who are not fluent in English, have fallen the furthest behind. Yep, and this can be solved by outreach programs, but it takes funding, it takes planning, it takes organization. And it takes people asking the question, where can I find this or that or something else? So it says the literacy crisis did not start with the pandemic. In 2019, results on national and international exams showed stagnant and declining American performance in reading and widening gaps between high and low performers. Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's horrible. And you have to get your children reading early and enjoying it. If you're finding out that your kid hates reading, they had to have gotten it from somewhere. Somebody around them had to have said that they hate reading. Or you didn't read to them often enough that was entertaining, or there's all kinds of reasons for it. But the most is that they don't relate to the material and they don't find it entertaining. Well, you got to do it. You have to find something and keep your children reading. They're going to be doing a ton of it in school. You might as well motivate them to engage in it and love it. The next article I clicked on because I thought it was absurd. Congress gives final approval to make lynching a hate crime. when is lynching not a hate crime? Why wouldn't it always be considered a hate crime? I understand the context of it. Oh, well, not every lynching is a hate crime, right? Because of the context of it. But you have to pretty much hate somebody. And I understand, again, the impact of the term hate crime, right? It typically it's racially motivated or culturally motivated, and that is what makes it a hate crime. But really, this is a pretty disgusting act to not consider just outright anytime it's used. Anytime this takes place in the commission of a crime, hate crime, just add that on there. But it says the bill's unanimous passage in the Senate ended more than a century of failed attempts to explicitly criminalize lynching. A century of failed attempts. Let's click this link. Takes us over to New York Times. This article was written by Emily Cochran. And it says, it was a remarkable moment after more than a century of failed attempts. The historic bill carries the name Emmett Till, the 14-year-old black boy tortured and murdered in Mississippi in 1955 under the measure the crime is punishable by up to 30 years in prison. Up to 30 years. I guess any amount is forward motion, but 30 years for taking a life. With good behavior, you're out in 15, maybe less. You get a degree. You say you're going to do public good. Everybody deserves a second chance, I suppose. Well, here's to the glacial movement. And I guess I should be happy that it even took place. But I'm not. Justice should move swifter than that. The next article is in the Word and Law channel. Justices decline to reinstate GOP-backed congressional voting maps in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. This is kind of the gerrymandering thing where voting maps are restructured. And I think that there's a lot of bias that takes place when one side, quote unquote, right? We're all human. We're all stuck on this ball together. Why we create these divisions, arbitrarily designed divisions, fighting on the floor. Anyway, this article is by Amy Howe. I'd be happy to talk about it if anybody in chat wanted to give me their perception, their understanding of this. I mean, I understand the sociological aspects of this, but when you step back, why do we have these machinations? The only thing that you can appeal to is that we're still tribal. We're still trying to get rid of them versus protecting us, while still not acknowledging that we have the means, the technology, the capability, the money, the sophistication to solve so many problems. I would hazard to say we could solve all of the world's problems if we would see society as a benefit in and of itself and not them, whatever they are, versus us, whoever us is. But again, I've said it before, I am naive apparently in my grasp of reality. And sometimes I wake up wondering, am I really doing this right in any way, shape, or form? Yeah, maybe not. So it says the Supreme Court on Monday refused to block orders by courts in North Carolina and Pennsylvania that threw out the congressional maps enacted by the state's Republican legislatures and replaced them with maps drawn by the trial courts. The justices' ruling means that the state's 2022 congressional elections will go ahead using the court-drawn maps. So the North Carolina case is Moore v. Harper. You will have to go over and take a look at this and then come on back. I am trying to incite you to go over to the site and read it. This is an article by Amy Howe for the scotusblog.com. And I'm going to keep moving forward. The next article is in the Word in Tech. It says Apple brings the darkness back to its peripherals with a black trackpad. And my understanding is there's a black keyboard now too. Let's click this link and take a look. It says Apple announced a new Mac and monitor at its peak performance event. But let's talk about what we're really hoping for in our heart of hearts, a black version of the Magic Trackpad. Let's click this link and there it is. And it adds $20 to your budget. So Mitchell Clark is the author of this article for The Verge. And yeah, it's a pretty neat little gadget. The Mac Studio, by the way, which was also announced, is a beast of a device. And it actually starts at arguably, right? Everybody's pricing is subjective, but it's $2,000. And the processor is a higher end M1, but they also announced an M1 Ultra, which has I think it's 20 cores and 64 GPU cores, and is just bananas in its power. But it maxes out at $8,000. Yeah. If you're going to spend $8,000, I think you're pretty good on get the black version of the Magic Trackpad, which I've never really liked. I hate to say it, but I've really not liked the trackpad sitting on my desk. I like a trackball better than a mouse and better than a trackpad. That's just me, though, I'm sure. Go over and read the rest of this article. Maybe it'll tease you into buying an $8,000 Mac Studio. And here we go. Oh, look, I completely forgot that I even opened up this link. This article is in Smack Talk as well. And, the last one I didn't include, I'm sorry. It's in the Word in Tech. There you go. So both the trackpad and the fully loaded Mac Studio. So the fully loaded Mac Studio costs just $8,000, more powerful than similarly priced Mac Pro. Well, just the M1 Ultra chip alone is more powerful than any Mac Pro that you're going to see. Let's see. On Tuesday, Apple took the wraps off its Mac Studio, an all-new Mac with an all-new form factor that includes the company's most powerful chip yet, the M1 Ultra. 90% faster than the speediest 16-core PC chip and provides better graphics performance, all while using much less power. Yeah, dramatically less power, by the way. We'll click that link and take you over to Apple Insider, where Mike Peterson wrote the article. Basically, the Mac Studio looks like it's 3 Mac Minis stacked on top of each other with a ginormous intake grill surrounding its base and a ginormous exit. It looks like an exhaust grill on the back above what is typically referred to as the backplane. So it has a bunch of Thunderbolt ports in the back, networking integrated, the power USB A and HDMI and mini jack port on the back, which for some reason the $8,000 price didn't seem to jog too much unrest. But if you were to remove that mini jack, I'm sure all hell would break loose. Again, I'm not going to read this whole article. I'm not going to play the video. I want you to go over to Apple Insider and read more about it. But this thing, when it's maxed out, has 128 gigabytes of memory. It's integrated memory. So it's super fast, 32 core neural engine, 64 core GPU, 20 core CPU. I want this thing. My goodness. But I think the least expensive one is $2,000. Yeah. So the Mac Studio starts at $2,000. So go and check it out. I'm actually considering swapping out everything for a Mac Studio, but I'd have to sell a bunch of PCs to justify this existence. But the next article is my last article for the night, and it is about the 27-inch iMac. After an over 12-year run, Apple has finally discontinued the 27-inch iMac. So you will not be able to get a 27-inch iMac anymore. Anything Intel is going to be falling away from Apple anyway. It will be relaunched at some point. This article, by the way, is at appleinsider.com, a great source for everything Apple. It's written by Daryl Boxberger. And basically, like I was saying, they don't talk about it really in here, I don't think, but everything that is Intel is going to get purged from Apple inventory over time. And when they find it economically smart to pull everything and then recycle all of the components and, remelt all of that aluminum down and start over with a new product, that's what's going to happen. They'll do it eventually. But they're going to get rid of everything Intel, plain and simple. And so if you've got Intel products, you might want to start considering moving over to M1 Apple products. I've got, I think, 4 Mac Minis over here that are Intel products that I'm probably going to end up having to convert into servers for VMware. We'll see. But that's it for today. I hope you really got something out of it. Today's show went a little bit long, and I want to remind you that every time you go to ohmTown and you click that logo, and upon your first visit, all you do is refresh the page and you get a whole new set. I am aware that I'm getting some duplicates. That's because of some processes that I'm running on the back end. Unfortunately, there isn't anything that I can do about it at this point. I'm looking at what's causing it, and it's probably going to take upgrading my server. So if you are interested in the show, then swing by twitch.tv/ohmTown. The podcast exists. Just search for ohmTown on Apple. And YouTube, you just go to youtube.com/ohmTown and you'll get taken to the location for this show. And I will be posting this show either later today, tonight, or tomorrow. Thanks for coming by, and I will see you tomorrow at 6 p.m.